All right. French and Friends here, 1590 WCGO. Joe Coughlin joins us, publisher of Chicagoland magazine. What's going on, sir?
Not too much, man. Thanks for having me in. Appreciate it.
Thank you for joining us. I was mentioning off the air how everything is in one or two paragraph forms these days. And I love the name of the magazine, Chicagoland. One of the best follows I have on Twitter is Narratively magazine. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah, I am familiar, yeah.
And I see the similarity in the name, of course. I really think there's something important that happens in our brains when we dedicate a little piece of time to reading a novel, reading a certainly long-form piece of journalism.
Absolutely, yeah.
And it really just makes me feel good to sit down and know that, wait a minute, I might have to pick this back up later, but I have something to look forward to.
Right.
What sort of pioneer are you, sir, to get into this medium right now? And I know you have a great website too, but was it daunting when you launched this thing in the end of 2015 to get into long form journalism, or did you recognize the need because there's such a lack of it?
The lack of it, absolutely. I don't know about the need. I guess we're still trying to find that out, but we think so. And you know, our company does community newspapers, and that's where we added about one a year for about a decade. So the evolution of our company led to a magazine. Like, let's do a magazine. Sat down in a room. We said, there are dozens, literally dozens, especially in Chicago, of those quick hitter magazines, style magazines, lifestyle, culture, design, things like that. And we wanted to do something completely different. And long form's where I live. It's what I really enjoy. It's what I've done most of my career, whether the newspaper wanted it or not.
So you worked
making me
in
trim
papers
my
before?
stories. I mean, this company for most of my career, out of college, I did a lot of freelance for a while. But our community newspapers, I was a main feature guy for us. So it's something I really enjoy, and I'm with you. I like to sit down and enjoy a piece of journalism for a while and really take in all aspects of it, hear from different people, well-sourced stories, in-depth things. And that's what I've guided with this piece. So we know that, I guess, you know, people's response times may be shorter nowadays, and there's a place for those magazines. There certainly is. Some of those magazines are just great, but this is something different and something you can take, and it's quarterly, so you could take it, you could read one of the pieces, you're going to come back to it, read another one. It's going to be something new, something exciting and captivating is what we're really going for. We really feel we have some of the greatest writers in Chicago too.
Well, let's get to some of those in a minute, but quality is so important, you know, especially with I have so many free options these days, but one of the ones, you know, I used to read Harper's and Atlantic all the time, maybe the New Yorker, but like I said, that narratively where it's not just based on the news, I want these unique stories. And then with Chicago, I don't know if you have it, but I'm in Evanston. You know, we're in Evanston right now. You join us here in Evanston, Joe Coughlin of Chicagoland magazine. And we tell everybody, you know, I tell people, well, I'm in Chicago because Chicago's the hub and we are the spokes, but ultimately we're all revolving around Chicago.
Absolutely.
And I mean, sure, there's Winnetka and there's Wheeling and this and that and the other, but the city is still the heartbeat of everything. Are you telling us stories from all over?
Yeah, and that's, I mean, you just let in what we theorized before we started. It was that we're all Chicagoans, and you're from up here. I'm actually from the South Burbs originally, and pretty far south of Chicago, 45 miles, and I always consider myself a Chicagoan.
Right.
And we feel like a lot of suburbanites, if not all of them, feel that same way, whether they lived in Chicago at one point or just consider themselves part of that over Chicagoland. So we call ourselves the most compelling read in Chicagoland, and we cover everything. A lot of the big issues we tackle, like the one in this issue is about how downtown's gorgeous and everybody loves it, but maybe not everybody loves it. Maybe it's also a beast. You know, and so that's something we tackle, and that's something everybody can relate to. And then we take individuals and subjects that some of the most colorful from the burbs and from the Chicago. So we kind of try to hit all over the city and all over the suburbs, which is a huge area if you take into account. Yeah,
and it's lovely. That's funny you mentioned that in this issue, which is spring 2017 of Chicagoland, which, by the way, kind of is that a matte cover? It's absolutely gorgeous. Soft matte. Who did the art on that?
We have a different local artist every time.
Freaking brilliant.
Our creative director, who's also brilliant, kind of goes on a search based on what we're looking for a different local artist that can create something for us.
It's funny you were talking about downtown being a beast. Just this morning, Sonar had to make an airport run. Okay, I used to work I was downtown, you know, Michigan and Lake, State and Lake for a number of years. So I've got a handle on the downtown, and I absolutely get a kick out of driving. But Sonar, having spent his 2 years up here so far in Evanston, Sometimes it gets a little lost. It
Oh,
is a beast.
absolutely. And that's what I really like about Chicago is there's a lot of different voices that are all happening at the same time. Right. So,
Yep.
what I think your contributors is just leafing through it now, you have captured some of those voices because, like you said, it is Chicagoland. It's not just Chicago. There's a bunch of different places in there. Yeah.
Yeah.
And do you usually do a good mix of everything, or is it mostly Chicago downtown centric? It's a good mix, we think.
Sure.
Obviously, some might debate that just because we kind of pick from all over. And
Hmm.
I would say, actually, our first four issues, we concentrated pretty heavily on the North Shore
Uh-huh.
because that's where our distribution hub was. We
Okay.
we went through our newspapers for the first year because we have the 7 newspapers, so that's how we distributed.
Hmm.
Now we're subscription only, so we're opening it up to everybody. But we've covered everybody. We've been out in the West Burbs, the River Forest areas for some people, South Burbs, Tinley Park, Mokina. So we're moving around, we think.
Hey, you guys have taken a big risk, I suspect, doing this. But do you feel that what is old is new again? I'll give you an example. Vinyl's back. There's a record store a shop down the street from me. I live in right on the border of Rogers Park, Edgewater. Okay, it's called Audio Archaeology, and the guy redoes all the old cabinets. Like in our lobby, you see a couple of old
Yeah, it
radios,
looks
things like
good.
that.
Yeah, I
And
like
I'm
that.
thinking, there's the anticipation I remember from my childhood when a magazine would come. I mean, whether it was Sports Illustrated or something
Mhm.
else. And are you seeing a little bit of that again? People want the tactile payoff. Was that part of the
I
thinking?
think so, and I think other, like you mentioned, record stores as well as maybe
Right.
boutique bookstores are
Oh, for
seeing that
sure.
too.
Hmm.
That kind of resurgence that's staying a while, and for yeah, just that physicality of having it in your hand and
Yeah.
flipping through it, and just also the aesthetics of something like that nice art on your table
Right.
where you can
Well,
pick
it
it
looks
up at
good.
any time. Yeah,
I would
that's
even look smart with this on my coffee table, so that's important.
uh,
Yeah, I think about, you talk about the books. A friend of mine runs a shop called Armadillo's Pillow, where you go in there and there's not a title you would not be interested in reading, and that takes a lot of care.
yeah.
To put something together like that, whether you're assembling a magazine or depending on what it is you're selling, just to be cool enough, frankly. I mean that in a good way. Yes,
Well,
sir.
exactly. In that same kind of sense, why did you choose long form when essentially everybody is just uh, writing a Twitter blog Right. and just giving the main facts? Was it better to actually involve the whole story, or were you guys just thinking that this is the resurrection of the long form? I think maybe a combination of those factors and the fact that we had maybe some writers in tow
Hmm.
that really specialize in that medium.
Okay.
We have a few writers in there that really have done good work from us in the past, and maybe were wanting to do that long form
Hmm.
and didn't have a platform. So that was a good start for us, having those writers ready to go, as well as I do a couple pieces too, so I really enjoy it. And we have seen just we think there's that need for taking a list of the top 10 whatever,
Hmm.
and actually let's draw that out into why is there this list of top 10, why is this number 7, but not really making a list, making it a long form piece, exploring all angles of it, well sourced, well researched, in Chicago specifically. Some of
Hmm.
those magazines around the country, but I don't know if Chicago has that specifically. You get it at times in the Sunday Trib for
Yep.
sure. Chicago Magazine might do a piece or two every issue, actually, a couple pieces, but
Hmm.
this whole our whole magazine's that.
Joe Coughlin joins us, publisher of Chicago Lee Magazine. ChicagoLeeMag.com is the website. ChicagoLYMag.com if you're wondering how Chicago Lee is. Cool stuff in here. I'm going to get things on sports, but not an update day to day or anything. The cool stories behind sports, like a flashback to Wrigley Field and what at the beginning of the Cubs, maybe
Before the
in this issue
Cubs,
before the
before the
Cubs.
Cubs, Charlie Wegman, who built the stadium. It was Wegman Park before it was
Uh
Wrigley
huh.
Field, and he has just an incredible story about how he kind of built up the he was called the lunchroom king, kind of built up his revenue being the diners for
Yeah.
downtown folk, and built up revenue. That he was a baseball fan, so he bought the Chicago Whales. I don't know if you heard of that,
I have. I've
of the
seen an old
Federal League,
retro
and
T-shirt
he
running
built
around.
this amazing park for them at Clark and Addison,
Yeah.
and then the Federal League didn't work out. So then he, busted out his checkbook and bought the Cubs. So then he had
Yeah.
the Cubs, and he moved them from West Park to Wrigley Field. So it's the whole story. We have a Chicago historian, Richard Lindbergh, who does a piece for us every
Dude,
time. He's
he is so
unbelievable.
awesome.
He's unbelievable.
I've had the pleasure to speak with him a couple times over the years. Obviously, this isn't all about sports. I just gave that as an example. We've got a look at Ukrainian Village, which is a neighborhood I absolutely adore. Does it ever cease to amaze you the number of stories about this area? With you think about the rich literary history that we have, the number of I'm astounded by the number of new things I learn about Chicago every day. Like, I mean, you're never going to learn all of it.
No, never. And even if you did, it changed the next day.
Yeah,
Chicago's so fluid. There's always stuff popping up.
Mhm.
Your favorite restaurant, unfortunately, could be gone.
sure.
Within a couple months or within a year or so, and then something great could pop up. So that's really interesting. We have that piece is called Evolution. We do a piece on a different Chicago neighborhood every issue,
Nice.
and kind of how it's changed through the years, which I think is really great for the suburbanites because they've moved from those neighborhoods.
Mhm.
They've moved out from Ukrainian Village.
They want to
or
know
they
what's
were
going
born
on there still.
want to know what's happening there. So that's a really cool piece, and I think that explores a lot of Chicago.
I would certainly recommend this. A year for $16, 2 years for 24. Like I said, you're going to look smart and be smart to have this on your coffee table. And plus, it's gorgeous. It really is gorgeous. Congratulations on this.
Thank you.
What's the long term plan here?
Well, we just the next step in the evolution was going to subscription. So
Uh-huh.
now it's
Mission
really,
accomplished.
I mean, we're waiting to see because it's out there and we're waiting for the subscriptions to hopefully roll in.
Yeah.
We'll see how they come in, but so now we're waiting to see with that. And if all goes well, which we're planning on, more staff, maybe more
Yeah.
issues a year. I think that's the evolution, slow growth, kind of see how it goes. But so far so good.
What are the challenges in launching and maintaining a magazine like this in 2017 with all of the changes in our industry? Like what happened to newspaper or to radio, happened to newspapers, happened to television, happened to magazines.
I think
Fewer dollars to go around for talent is one.
Yeah, fewer dollars to go around for talent, and finding a lot of talent's difficult. A lot have left the industry, maybe gone to PR and we're going to marketing, which are
Yeah.
also demanding jobs. So it's not like they
For
can
sure.
moonlight and write a 5,000 word piece in their free time.
Yeah.
They're also busy, so that can be a challenge as well. But we've been able to do this with a pretty low overhead,
Yeah.
which has been nice for us. So we have the room there to grow. So other challenges are, like you said, just getting people interested in a new magazine.
Yeah.
There's so many out there. Getting the word out. Marketing's not cheap. So
No.
showing people that Chicagoly is something, and it's a physical something, not just a website.
Yeah.
So that's been a challenge so far.
And what I really like about this forum as well is that it's a bunch of different voices. You don't have the same three people writing every article, and you can see the bias in the writing. What I really like about this is you have a great staff and a great pool of Chicagonites to pull from.
Yeah.
And what are some of the people that you regularly have writing for you?
Well, like I mentioned, the woman that does Evolution is named Jamie Lynn Ferguson, and she does a great job. She also does some long form. She did the main piece in this one called Perspective
Mhm.
about downtown. So she's just an exceptional writer. No one colors a scene like she does. We actually had a writer for our whole first year, Lorraine Busenalt, that does great stuff on environment and progressiveness, and she's on. She actually took a job with the Smithsonian, so
Oh,
lost
man.
her there.
Hard
We had a guy that does a lot of our sports stuff, Neil Milbert. He was a Pulitzer Prize winner for the Tribune, and was on their sports desk for 4 decades or so. So he
Oh.
does some great stuff for us too. Alan Henry was a managing editor in the industry for years. So like you said, we have a lot, and on both sides of the aisle too, if we're playing the political game. So some articles come in and they go one way, some go the other way, and we just do our best to make sure all voices are heard. And that's, I mean, we live in Chicago. There's so many voices, like you said. People need to hear all angles.
Joe Coughlin joins us, publisher of Chicagoland magazine. I have one more question for you about the business. Ernest Hemingway, if I remember correctly, was a notoriously horrible speller. Do articles as they come to you look a lot different when they're ultimately published? Like, does it depend on the writer, or is there a lot of back and forth and red ink and
Uh,
know-
Yeah, the main edits I do,
Yeah.
but I want to give the suggestions first. I want to send them revision
And see what they
ideas
come
and
back
tell them,
with.
like, this isn't drawn out enough. I don't think. What can you do about that? We need one more source to explain this side. Things like that.
Yeah.
In terms of the spelling and grammar, pretty good. But to be honest, we have some copy editors that just are so good at that stuff. I don't know how and they like it.
Yeah.
So
you have an article in here about it. Is something similar.
We do have
this
a
issue.
grammar enthusiast every week that explains
Fun.
grammar. So if you're into that, which she certainly is, it's pretty interesting. But I wouldn't say vastly different, but yeah, that goes through a couple rounds of revisions.
Fascinating stuff. Joe Coughlin, Chicagoland magazine, chicagolandmag.com. Certainly great value for what you're getting. I really appreciate you bringing me a copy. This is beautiful. ChicagolandMag.com. Joe, hope we can talk again.
Yeah, me
This is
too.
certainly
Thank
going
you. This
to
was great.
excellent. French and Friends, more coming up.